What if I told you that I think meditation's overrated? My name is Deb Blum, and I'm a self-love and authenticity coach, and I am coming out of the closet. So I know people who have found meditation to be absolutely the path to them waking up, to them being less triggered, to them living a better life and a more conscious life. And I know like countless people who that's been their experience, but it's not been my experience. So whenever I say that I meditate, what I actually mean is that I sit in silence. I sometimes do guided meditations, which I love. And sometimes I sit and I just enjoy silence. I just enjoy that meditative experience. But I have never been someone who can just sit there and like be on the breath and do like a certain type of meditation. Now, I want to say I'm leaving the possibility that I might eventually be exposed to a type of meditation that I just love so much. But for any of you out there who have tried meditation for many years and haven't really found that there's been anything earth-shattering that has come of it, I want to ask you to consider inquiry instead. Okay, because that's been my path. My path has been inquiry and journaling. And I was super resistant to journaling for a very long time. I would get a journal and I'd be the person who would like, oh, I'm going to write for my journal. I write in my journal for 5 days or something like that. And then it would just go in a pile and I wouldn't see it. And then like maybe a year later, I'd write again and I'd start a new journal. So I have all these journals all around that had like 5 days worth of content in it. But in the past 2 years, actually, I haven't been journaling that much in the past 6 months, just to be honest with you. But before then, I had been journaling nonstop every single day, probably 2 or 3 years, probably 3 years I had done. And it was incredible. And it was my space for doing inquiry. I would ask myself questions. I would practically coach myself through whatever I was going through. Way back in the beginning, my first exposure to inquiry work was Byron Katie's work. That was probably 12 years ago. And I started doing inquiry work there where I started to question my thoughts and question whether I was whether I was caught up in a story or whether my thinking was kind of faulty. And that was the beginning for me that really, really helped me to be able to get the concept that everything that I think isn't necessarily true, and that when I was blaming and judging other people, that often it was really something within me that I needed to look at. Now, I've since then learned that there's a lot more nuance to it. I have I understand trauma better now. I think that inquiry needs to be even more sort of sophisticated and nuanced and supportive beyond what I think Byron Katie's work does. But I think Byron Katie's work is an excellent introduction to inquiry. And I think it's a beginning for people to be able to start to explore their thoughts and not believe everything that they think. So what do we do? So, often when you're in meditation, you're asked to become aware, right? It's an awareness. So it's like, a thought kind of floats through, you don't grab onto it, you just notice it and allow it to pass. But the problem there is that then you can have all kinds of thoughts and they aren't actually based in reality, or they're based in the past. And you're just letting them go. They may give you like a little pain and then they kind of drift through. And I'm of the mind that inquiry is where we actually go in and we explore them and we understand them. We understand ourselves better. We begin to actually go into like, what are the feelings? What are the deeper pieces inside of us? What pain are we experiencing around it? What pain did we experience? What coping strategies did we create? What patterns did those create in our lives? How are those patterns harming us in present day? Where are there outdated patterns that need to be updated based on where we are in our lives? And so we get a chance in inquiry to be able to go beyond this idea. So yeah, you can learn non-attachment, I guess, that's what a lot of people learn, is that concept of non-attachment in meditation. But I think that if you don't attach to the thought, that's only part of the process. If you don't actually then go in and do the inquiry to understand why the thought keeps on coming up, and even if you're good at not attaching to it, why the heck does that thought keep coming up? If you don't ever explore that, you'll I think people will just, it's almost like there's a potential to do what I would call bypassing. And again, I'm not judging, because listen, we all are at different places in our lives, and maybe some people, meditation has been that for them. They've been able to go in and actually heal and move beyond things. For me, that's not been the case. For me, it's been the inquiry work, journaling, and really like going into self-exploration. That's been the journey for me. And like, I know people who meditate every single day, and they still are super triggered. And so, when we try to transcend, which is what often we get taught in meditation, is to transcend the physical body. Well, then when we get back into the physical body, when we're going back out into the world, we're going to naturally have the physical body's reactions to things. So again, I'm not really, I kind of joking when I'm saying that meditation's overrated. I think it's just personal, right? But if you find yourself being a person who's like, yeah, meditation hasn't really been the thing for me, and you're interested in inquiry instead, then I think that, let's stick together, because I think we need to also create for people other avenues for personal growth, and not kind of give the impression that meditation's the only way. And by the way, I actually think meditation's different than mindfulness too, because mindfulness is an excellent, like, daily, like, I think that's what the ultimate goal is how do I keep coming back to my body, to my present experience, my needs, and being able to kind of feel into my experience right now all day long, and rather than like just when I'm on the mat. Now, I also know that there's a lot of evidence to prove like mindfulness-based stress reduction, I think it's called, and some other particular types of meditation have been really, really great in reducing stress. And I will give you that I'm not particularly stressed anymore. And maybe that's because I have done some meditation, and maybe it's because I do sit every single day in some type of contemplative process and with myself. So, and because I also intentionally try very hard to manage my life in such a way that I'm not as stressed out as I used to be. Nevertheless, again, I'm just trying to create space for you to explore what it is that is best for you, rather than trying to squeeze yourself into the idea that everybody thinks that meditation is the answer, when maybe it's not the answer for you, and maybe there's something else that works for you. And I'm going to give you a comparison. So I broke my hip recently, and I had to go to physical therapy. And while I was in physical therapy, it was excellent in the beginning because I literally couldn't walk, and I had to learn how to walk again. But over time, what kept on happening, I kept on getting this bursitis right over the fracture point. And I realized that's because I'm being told what to do, and I'm not listening to my body. And so I quit physical therapy, and I decided that I'm going to listen to my body instead. I'm going to do exercises that I know work, and when they're not working for me, I'm going to stop doing them. And when they're causing a bursitis, I'm going to take a break, and I'm not going to just let some other person impose upon me what it is that I should be doing. Now, I'm not judging him. He's an excellent physical therapist. He did a magically good job, and he got me walking and got me to where I was. But there's a point where you have to stop listening to what other people say, including me, and you have to tune into yourself. So I'm just offering you the possibility that if you're kind of questioning whether meditation is working for you, and if you're wasting your time, that there are other things you can do. And you can also explore different types of meditation. As I said, for me, I love guided meditations. I love sitting in silence, and I love being quiet. But if I pressure myself to be just in some silent, only focusing on the breath place, I end up finding a lot of times that it's a waste of my time. So these days, inquiry. So I'm going to put some links in the show notes below. Well, I'm going to put one, and it's for what's called my Trigger Trail Buddy, which is when you're triggered, after you're triggered, it's kind of like you have a little friend with you, like a trail buddy, and that person goes along your trigger. That tool, this inquiry tool, is with you while you go through and ask yourself some questions to help you to understand your triggers and to understand what they're connected to, what the deeper roots are. And then I do bring you through a guided meditation. If you stick around long enough, you'll get an email that'll come with a 30-minute guided meditation to help you to actually integrate that and heal. And I want to hear what you have to say about that. So I encourage you to go ahead, click down below, and get the Trigger Trail Buddy. And And you could also just go to my website at debblum.com, debblum.com, and you can go download it there as well. If you like this video, please click the like button, share it with other people, Click subscribe if you want to hear more from me, and the bell will tell you when I actually drop another video. Thanks, everybody.